I think that's really because they realized from the history of Europe that allowing religious sectarianism to make its way into influencing government results in strife and warfare and pogroms, effectively, is what they turned into in Europe. And they wanted to form a new social experiment. Even these religious men were willing to admit that. I mean, the Dansbury Baptist situation, they had a very legitimate complaint. They don't want the Presbyterians to oppress them. And freedom for those people from religion means a wall of separation between government and religion, because if a religion gets in power in government, it's over for everybody else.
Well, I don't understand the constitutional argument saying that if they all believed in religion, then why they wasn't in the Constitution? As you said, they did understand that sectarianism had destroyed Europe to some degree, right? You got to agree. But that's not what they're talking about. When I'm talking about founding a nation on Christian principles, well, that means they have to list Bible verses in the Constitution. That means they go to the Bible and they find out certain instances of the good government and bad government and say, this is how I want to run our country. There's a reason why that Jefferson proposed the Great Seal with the two sides of the coin, both being about the Israelites in the desert. That's a historical record. You can look that up.
We also use a lot of Greek symbolism, but we don't say the warship is.
But I'm not saying that either. I'm saying what they're talking about is a specific foundational point. For instance, there's a story in the scriptures, of course, that talk about how Moses was advocating something called ruler's law. Everyone who had a problem when Israel came to him and found out it was too hard for him. So what did he do? He formed the first republican government. Now we have history or knowledge of. He set up rulers of tens, of 50s, of thousands, of 10,000s. He set up vice president over internal affairs, vice president over religious matters. He separated the government into systems of checks with himself as the supreme judge. That is the first republican government that we have knowledge of.
It was a theocratic dictatorship with some delegation.
Well, I guess if you want to be like that, I think you could say that. But what I'm saying is it's the first republican government that we have knowledge of. Some say in an extension that we don't have any kind of relationship there, that the founders were schizophrenic and saying that we did, they really mean it, and then they just said something in the Constitution. Is a little faulty and historically false in my opinion.
I think that if I were to quote, if I were to dig for quotes, I could probably find. I mean, really, I can find quotes for Jefferson painting him to be a religious man very easily. I don't. The actions of these men delay a strong desire for a separation of church and state. That they formed the government specifically not to allow religion to influence the actions of legislation. As in, then you cannot make religious law. You cannot, without any secular justification, you cannot spend taxpayer dollars. Without any secular, if it has no secular justification, you cannot do this. So if you're making a law that's pulled from the Bible, from the time of Moses, say, look, there hasn't been a society based around murdering people left and right, willy-nilly, ever.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying by God. Hold on. By saying that we're basing our beliefs on God, that's not the same we're taking the Bible and setting it up. What I'm saying is that we're looking at God-given principles. We're looking at God-given principles and making good government off of that. For instance,
perhaps there was a society based around murder at one point. So they killed each other, and now the rest of us got to,
Morality could be kind of evolutionary.
Yeah, it could be evolutionary. I think some people would actually believe that. What I'm saying is, who gives you the right not to be murdered? They can say that, well, it benefits us all not to be murdered. You can say that. We do not have a good society in which people can get murdered for no good reason. But who gives you an objective right not to be murdered? Is murder wrong? Hold on, is murder wrong? Or is murder not convenient? Is it not biologically convenient? If being murdered is not biologically convenient, then, well, you can say, well, I don't want you to be murdered because, hey, I don't get to be alive anymore. They can't run around anymore. But if murder is wrong, the government should use the full force of law in order to keep it from happening. There's a difference between being biologically unnecessary, biologically inconvenient and being necessarily morally wrong.
This gets into a very big argument about what is the origin of morality. If morality is the origin of law, and law is important to the Constitution, then we have to address the subject of morality. That's a big old ball of wax. Right?
That's what I'm saying. It's in Declaration of Independence. We hold these truths self-evident. All men are created by the created certain inalienable rights. That among these rights, they list rights.
Right.
Like, for instance,
endowed by his creator. Who could be his mom and dad? I mean, his mom technically did create him. He put a lot of effort into it.
Or nature's God. That's all.
Yeah, but there's an interpretation to that.
Yeah,
There's nothing explicit in the founding documents that says we derive our authority from God.
Except in the focus if they do.
Well,
everything except for that.
But in the actual document that he helped wrote and authorized, it says, we the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, we got together and we decided that we were going to endow each other with these rights. Which, I mean, the justification for all the oppression that occurred throughout the serfdom in Europe had been, I'm God. God says that I'm going to be king. Therefore, you have to do what I say. I mean, you can derive tyranny from God just as easily as you can derive liberty from God. So, we the people, democratic principle is a better way to go.
I don't think that you're actually saying anything that's absolutely right in the sense of you can derive tyranny from God unless you have a false view of God.
Oh, but who gets to decide what the false and correct view of God is?
What I'm trying to say is, in order, I don't want to get into the whole Christian thing because that's Project Easy. I don't want to start bringing down Christian principles. So I'm trying to talk about a broader view of religion. So to say that religion absolutely can be used for tyranny is only true if you have the false view of religion. But however, if you have a God who says that we have all sinned, that we have all been measured inside of God and found wanting, we have a system that says, wait a minute, no single person is better than another. But no single person can say that I have a more qualified right to be human than you do. I'm not ontologically better than any other person.
That's not supported by the Bible, though. The Bible does very explicitly. I mean, Solomon, Moses as well. I mean, these were not democracies.
They're ontologically greater than
They're
people that they rule.
not democracies, though. There's nothing democratic in the Bible. Democracy originates from the Greeks, and you should get into the conversation. You've been quiet way too long.
But in the Bible, if you look at the original system of government that they had, what was it? You know what it is?
The original system of government had the Bible?
Yes, before they instituted Saul as the first king, they had a system of judges, a system of rulers and legislators, and then God said, listen, if you want a king, it's in the Bible, it's in Samuel, if you want a king, you're going to have problems. He will tax you. He will take away your property, and he will ruin the land. He will be a tyrant. Well, that's exactly what the Bible says. If that's what you want, that's in the Bible. You can look it up, read it for yourself. If you want a king, you will get a tyrant. Now, if you insist on a king, and the people insisted on a king, they insisted that they have a king to rule them. But God said, if you go with my Republican system of government to a tyranny, that's what you get.
It's not a tyranny.
So God knew that having a king could corrupt society, but that the people didn't know, and that's the whole point. People are flawed, and they need systems in place to keep them in check.
Yes,
and that's where God those systems. We make those systems.
Okay. Then my question would be back to the morality to some small extent. Oh, I'm just a general question. Question. I lost my. You did get her. So where could is it possible for a citizen to provide an objective system of government that wouldn't necessarily be democratic in its entirety? In other words, if citizens,
what do you mean by democratic?
in the great democracy of Athens, for instance, any demagogue like Pericles could sway easily, simply by virtue of his speaking voice and tone. The people, if you have no higher authority than yourself, and the people around you for making laws and for making rules and for making governments, then what is to prevent that government from turning in upon itself and becoming tyrants? Without a system of higher values and principles that we can call God, or to guide them.
First, I don't agree with your labeling the moral principles as God. And also, if morals were completely based on a belief in God, then atheists and agnostics would be lunatic criminals.
I've said it before.
Yes, you have. And yet, I'm not murdering anybody right now.
Well, what I'm saying is that there's no basis for his morality. In other words, he can say, well, I don't think murder is right, but then I ask him, says who? Well, I might, Grace, say murder is wrong. And I'm like, wait, no. I keep wouldn't say murder is right, bang, you're dead.